According to the 2022 Data Breach Investigations Report, the human remains the number one driver of breaches today, demonstrating that cybersecurity is no longer just a technical challenge, but a human one as well. But how do you manage the human risks of cybersecurity? It starts with measurement. Only by effectively quantifying human risk can organizations engage employees with relevant activities to truly change human behavior. That's human risk management. Map key human behaviors to the business risks that matter most to your organization for free by visiting securityweekly.com/living security.
The Security Weekly News is live on Tuesdays and Fridays at 12 o'clock Eastern Time most every week. I try to scan and produce a quick look at some major stories to help you keep up with what's going on in and around the industry in a short format. Myself, Jason Wood, and other guest commentators provide greater insight every week. I'm Doug White, and I hope that you will look for the Security Weekly News in all of your favorite podcast catchers and subscribe for the latest content.
Welcome back to Business Security Weekly. I am your host, Matt Alderman, joined by Jason Albuquerque, Ben Carr, and Tyler Robinson. You can now find us on Instagram. You can't find me on Instagram, but you can find us. Follow us for highlight reels, giveaway announcements, and more at Second Weekly. All right, gentlemen, let's get into the articles. I love this first article. Like, the alignment of cybersecurity to drive revenue and lower costs. Like, wow, sounds like they've been listening to the show for a while, Jason.
Yeah, I think they've been watching Business Security Weekly for the last 5 years, and finally it's hitting the newsreel. I love it. No, I mean, it was a good article, but, I read it and I'm like, duh, we talk about this all the time. I mean,
right.
The four characteristics, they call them cyber transformers in this article, right? Who can really, help transform the business, show business alignment, show how how cybersecurity can align with business growth. The four characteristics they talk about, we talk about them all the time. Integrate cyber and risk management together, right? So you have a risk-based approach to your cybersecurity program. Leverage partners. We talked about it in the earlier segment. We've talked about it a lot here. Bring in professionals when you need professionals. Have a cybersecurity program where you talk through protecting the entirety of your ecosystem and all of the stakeholders, meaning vendors, partners, clients, anybody who integrates into your system, and then leverage automation and orchestration to, get some economies of scale and really get those processes automated. We talk about these things all the time. I'm glad it's finally out there.
What interested me was the first one. The gap between the integration of cybersecurity and risk management. Like, that had the biggest gap between, the cyber transformation companies and the rest. And I think it's an important thing that we talk about a lot. If you're not thinking about risk management, you're going to struggle when it comes to cybersecurity, right? What do you say? You either become a risk management professional or you report to the risk management professional. Or you're going to report to one.
Eventually, you're going to report to one. Absolutely. I mean, that's the way it's going to go. If, the business minds at the executive leadership side of the aisle understand risk management, they've been doing it for decades on the financial side. And I mean, it's the same idea. They're going to manage the business based on risk. We have to align with the business. We have to speak the language of the business.
Yeah. I mean, that was the big takeaway for me from this article. Ben, Tyler, I didn't know if you guys had any comments on this one.
Yeah, no, I think you aligned with the same thing I saw when I looked at the article and the disparity there from a risk management side. I mean, I think, and Jason, which we talk about all the time, it is all risk management. Whatever your C-level title is, you're dealing with risk management. It's just the lens that you're looking through with that perspective on risk management, right? Whether it's the CFO, whether it's the CRO, whether it's the, whatever it is, customer service, right? It's all, how are you managing that risk? I mean, we don't have infinite dollars, infinite resources to spend. So how do we align what we have in the best way possible to get the best perspective value for the company and hopefully try to maximize output, minimize input. So if we can do that, we're doing the right thing at risk, and that's what security is. And if we start aligning that way with the rest of the business, I think, as this said, that's where you start to become transformational. I think the other key thing that I thought was interesting was, there's a couple of bullet points later down, and the first one is require cybersecurity controls before all new business services and products are deployed. And that's just critical. I mean, we talk about shifting left, and that's really about shifting left. It's about getting it in at the beginning. It's cheaper. It comes with a better, a better result at the end of the day. And so anytime you're looking at it, whatever the business process is, cyber has to be part of that foundational discussion, to get the best outcome moving forward.
I think it is interesting because we are at that transformational period and transition period where we are starting to see the executives' mindsets wrap around the fact that cybersecurity isn't just a cost center. We see the financial tie to cybersecurity and security in general because of ransomware. It's an unfortunate event that all of the ransomware and all the monetary loss and or data loss has had to happen in order for us to get to this point. But we've gotten to this point where now you're either realizing, because we're in that transition period, that there's financial risk and financial loss associated with security, as well as understanding, and most companies really do have to kind of grasp this understanding of, we're all technology companies now. Whether you want to be or not, we have now shifted into an era where you're either a technology company or you don't exist. So as part of that, the security and the cost of doing business has had to shift with the security causing monetary and financial risk associations.
Yeah.
And Tyler, go ahead, Jason.
No, I was just going to say, the next level of that, though, is showing that your cybersecurity team can be a positive impact on revenue generation. Those are the terms that I want us to start using, right? I mean, yes, we manage risk. Yes, we have the operational side of technology, and we're securing technology, and we're limiting risk and financial loss. But cybersecurity can influence revenue generation 100%. And I want to be able to need that.
Right? To any mature company, it should. It has to be part of your business strategy moving forward. Like, how are you going to capitalize on cybersecurity? And kind of tangentially tied into that, what I was going to mention off Tyler's comment is, I was surprised I didn't see in the articles this week, Matt, was anything regarding the SEC Wells notice to SolarWinds, right? And the CISO over there. And if you start to think about how that's going to,
Ben, for our Say Easy Do Hard, because I have a lot on that.
Yeah, there's just a huge amount, right? So we'll take that offline a little bit, but I think it aligns to this. The CISO has to be thinking from his own perspective about how much he has to be involved in all these things. Otherwise, is he not taking responsibility and due diligence into account, and as a result is going to get served with a Wells notice? Probably not something a CISO wants to see, and that's usually reserved for a CFO or a CEO, right? We don't see those going out to every executive in the company. So that's an interesting shift, and I think it's going to cause some tremors within the market.
Yes.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the shot across the bow was fired, right? And that's basically the SEC saying, we're planning on bringing enforcement actions against these executives. And it was the CFO and the CISO who were named, not the CEO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking CFO and CISO, they're getting increased budgets, but are they spending it on the right things? This is article number 2. And again, if we're not thinking risk management and we're not trying to address business risks, do we really have the right plan for where we're spending money, or is it just a bunch of knee-jerk reactions to respond to whatever's out in the market?
Yeah, unfortunately, we talked about it in the previous segment. There's a lot of knee-jerk reaction going on, right? We're talking about financial constraints. We're talking about reduced budgets. We're talking about pressures about reducing budgets, and unfortunately, a lot of spend is now becoming knee-jerk reaction, and everybody thinks there's an easy button. Well, there is no easy button. This is why we have entire segments around Say Easy Do Hard, because you have to put the work in. The easy button always becomes a bad investment, unfortunately.
Well, and doesn't it track back to, again, like being a business level risk executive and understanding and having that discussion with everybody at the table and saying, look, what's our risk tolerance? What's the threshold we want to be at? What do we accept as acceptable risk? How do we document that? So when we have an issue, we can come back and we can have that discussion and say, hey, everybody in the room agreed to this, right? Or everybody didn't agree to this in the room. And so then making smart investment along with the rest of the business and saying, we're going to look for business outcomes. We're not going to try to just invest in a new tool or a new toy.
Yeah, I'm laughing because in order to do that, you have to know what you have. So your CMDB and your asset management needs to be on point.
Yeah.
Right
all
back to
these
the basics,
conversations
boys.
circle back to the same three things, right?
I'm telling you, the foundation for success.
Yes, absolutely.
100%.
Oh my gosh. Oh, we sound like a broken record after like 5 years of doing this, right?
Well, hey, you want to know what?
If people skipped a bunch of episodes and they tune back in, my question is, hey, is this the same episode I heard 3 years ago?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it doesn't change much.
Hey, you want to know what, guys? I'm foreseeing within the next 30 to 60 days, Accenture putting out a report about how important asset management is.
So true.
Think they'll have one following up with burnout and taking care of yourself too?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're gonna find out next. How to avoid burnout for those busy CISOs. Hey, you could just retire. I'm just saying.
Totally, 100%. You
well, again, after that Wells notice, a lot of people are looking to take the package.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. Yeah, I one of the most underestimated bullet points here that people don't think about enough is sleep. So many folks are so proud that they only got 3 hours of sleep last night, 4 hours of sleep last night, and I'm a warrior. I only slept for 2 hours. Well, guess what? No bueno, not healthy. It's going to affect your health. It's going to affect your mental health, physical health. Get the right amount of sleep. Diet, exercise are great, but there's so many adverse effects to not getting enough sleep. You have to focus on that.
Yeah, I do like that. That is priority one is health, exercise. Like, you're no good to anybody dead or not functioning well or in the hospital, right? Yep. Like, all these things are important. And unfortunately in IT, I think the eating healthy and taking breaks and exercising, the sleep's a problem. We all know that. But the other three are also a very big problem. Like, we can avoid some of those things.
I mean, this doesn't just apply to the CISO. It applies to a lot of executives. It applies to a lot of work at home people too. Like, think about it. We're in front of, I can sit in this office and work for 10 hours straight without taking a break. That's not good for you long term. Like, I'm just saying it's not, right? And so, I mean, this list could be applied to anybody that's in kind of a high stressor kind of environment.
Right. And then going all of that time without physical contact with people. I mean, virtual contact is fine, but being with someone, right, and you're in person with someone, it starts to play on you. And there are so many times where I'm like, I'm getting cabin fever. I need to get out in front of people.
Yeah, I think that was one of the pros of, look, I'm not a fan of going into the office, right? The whole 8 to 5 grind just to go into the office. I don't think really it serves a lot of value. But I do think, an opportunity where you can go into the office, right? Like, you don't have to, but go in for a day, right? Go work in a Starbucks, right? Just get out of the standard grind. If you're working in your home office and you're not leaving it, and you find out you're, instead of commuting 2 hours, you're just working 2 extra hours, that doesn't output a healthy outcome. So, I mean, I think all these points were really great. It was nice to see that wasn't anything on there from a standout point that I was like, I don't agree with. I think all these are great. I think, a lot of us deal with trying to figure out how to delegate. And I think that's really important that, you learn how to delegate, learn how to use your people. And it's not just, for your own health, it's for theirs. I mean, people need to learn how to take responsibility and get the job done. And failure's okay, right? As long as you're learning from it and coming out the other side in a more advanced state. I think those are all good things to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last one that I'll put out there, because I'm such an advocate for mental health, get the ego, throw the ego, leave the ego behind the door, throw it away, seek professional help if you need it. So many organizations have employee assistance programs. Leverage them. Leverage the programs that your job may have, that your company may have. Leverage an employee assistance program if you feel like you're getting burned out, if you feel like you're stressing too much, if you feel like you're getting anxiety. Go talk to somebody. Professional help is there if you need it. It's available. And, don't have an ego about it. Nobody's going to judge you. So your mental health is very important.
Yeah, agreed. Next article, how to maximize leadership potential by slowing down for hard decisions. This is hard. I was reading this article today thinking about my situation, right? We're going through strat planning for the rest of the year and into early next year. And everything there's a sense of urgency around decision making in an economic environment like we're in. And what this article is saying is, yes, but slow that down a little bit to make some of those hard decisions. So you're making the right ones. Don't drag your feet. And I thought it was interesting because, we've been doing this iteration over the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. Like, I don't want to wait anymore because I'm ready to, because I got to build a plan to execute, right? So I don't want to slow down.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the process and the milestones you put around it, right? Because you can put in controls to force some level of slowdown, right? Whether you have a product operations process to make sure that you're developing a product and bringing it to market where you're actually going to make money, or around these type of things where you kind of force it and you create milestones where you're forcing folks to sit down and have really in-depth conversations around the decision, really in-depth collaboration where we talked about it earlier, where you have a team come together and do a budgeting process that forces the collaboration, that forces you to have to come out of that meeting with some decisions, right? So if you can put those in place where those controls are there, you can force the collaboration, you can force the slowdown, but also have it in a fashion where it's not going to take forever to get it done.
Right.
Yeah. Ties to an excellent book that, if you have not read it, the Thinking Fast and Slow kind of brings this entire concept into a book. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, if you have that right process in place, your teams are going to be working very, very hard together. And that's a great thing because now you're building teams that trust each other, can work together, are transparent with each other, and sharing information. It has other great effects too.
This helps the whole team because it helps bring people along with you, right? And that's I think we struggle with sometimes if we think we know the answer to it and we're moving ahead really quickly and we're leaving others behind who haven't gotten there yet. So I think that bringing everybody along for that journey is really critical.
What I think is interesting about where we just took that last article is how it ties into the next article, right? Is how to make those decisions, those critical decisions as a team, right? And understanding the different profiles of problem solvers, because when you do that, and I can tell you firsthand, right? You've got these different profiles sitting in these conversations, and if you don't understand them, it's really hard to get consensus sometimes because you have certain people thinking with, this is a gut reaction. You have other people that want to analyze the data. Like, you have to understand all those profiles to actually work together to get to that common outcome during those discussions. So this article, this next article is a good kind of follow-up to that previous one.
Oh, I love this article because it does perfectly break down the different personalities and not only, what they bring to the table, but also the biases that they have. And if you can understand the biases that they have, you can proactively start thinking through those and bring things to the table so that way you can work through those biases, right? I mean, the perfect example is the visionary. I mean, that's your typical innovative, CEO, right? Who sits there and wants that pathway to the future and really drive there. But, they prefer those unique unicorn solutions versus something practical. And this is where you say, well, you want to know what? That's great. I love it. But can we make money? Can we operationalize it? Can we, right? So it's that dichotomy between like the visionary and someone who runs operations.
Yeah. Can you fund it? Can you make that investment? What are the ramifications of diverting resources from one part to another part of the business, right? That's what those, what they call them, the detectives, right, have to figure out, because they got to look at the data and say, yes, if you want to go here, here's the things we're going to have to change in order to get there, and being able to tie those together to come to an appropriate outcome is not always that easy.
Right.
And not only that, the sustainability of that long term, like we can get to this end point where it is stood up and usable, but then what is our ongoing cost and our discretionary funds to be able to continue this project? Those are things that often, as a visionary, like, I know how to get us there and I've got some big pie in the sky ideas, but what is the ongoing cost to do that? And you really need the insight of operations and even the money people, getting the CFO or some of the money people behind the ideas and projects that you're doing so that you can make sure that it's sustainable and it just doesn't die off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the great part of this article, it gives you that intel into the different personalities, which, it says it in the article very eloquently, where it gives you the tools to take your entire team that you're bringing in to help solve problems and help identify potential areas of tension, right? Because if you understand these personalities, you'll be able to work with them and get them all on the same page.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of different management. There's a bunch of different management theories on this kind of thing, right? And you've seen it in different. Deloitte has theirs. I mean, EY had theirs. Like it's understanding the business personas, but also understanding the emotional and personal personas of people, that you can make sure that you're talking to them in a way that's going to reach the right end objective, right? And so you have to understand yourself and you have to understand them, so you can understand where you're going to connect and how you're going to get the best outcome.
Yeah, because that ties into the last of the series of 3 articles around effective management. And the first one is commitment. See, if you can't get all these different profiles to agree to a plan, unless commitment is made, there are only promises and hopes, but no plans. It's a great statement out of this last article. Because I'm the guy that's got to build the plan. And without a commitment, like, how do I build the plan?
Mm-hmm. Right. No, agreed. This was another great article. Commitment is core to be able to be effective. And then I loved the second one, which was the best way to predict the future is to create it. That was such an awesome piece of that article where, if you want to have a predictor, go drive to make it happen. I absolutely love that.
And I think that's what a lot of organizations are trying to do, but it's really hard to get everybody to agree to make that future reality, right?
Yeah.
Because it goes back to the whole zero budget and start with a clean slate discussion from the previous segment, Jason, right?
Yeah.
We typically take last year's budget, we figure out how to make tweaks to it, and we're not thinking about how to make asymmetrical investments into the future, right? And that's really hard for an organization to do. But if you don't start there,
focus, and it takes elbow grease. It's another say easy, do hard. That would be a great say easy, do hard.
Well, I think when you think about that and you think about the budgeting cycle, the core assumption that you go into is everything that has happened in the past is still happening and going to happen in the future. That's not true, right?
No,
the world can change, circumstances can change, everything can change. And so if you don't analyze that, it may be true, but if you don't eliminate that core assumption and figure out, like, what is the state of the state and how do I make it successful in the future, then you're not setting yourself up for the best chance of success. Right. And that's really the challenge there.
Right.
But I think to Jason's point of say easy, do hard, holy mackerel, like if you've been through a budgeting process and try to figure out budget, like you're trying to, build the bus while you're driving it down the road, right? Because the rest of the business doesn't stop. So where do you find the time? That's the say easy, do hard part.
Right. And that takes us to the last quote in this article. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. That's really hard.
It is.
Yeah, super hard.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. Next week is another throwback episode from the Vault. So we'll see you again in 2 weeks on Business Security Weekly.